Okay, live stream.
Yep. Let me just let it go and okay, good. It's mute. Fantastic. Great. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday live Let's Talk multifamily call. And my name is Annabelle Pacheco. We host this call every Wednesday at 2 p.m. And we invite all of you that are interested in learning more about multifamilies or connecting with others that are currently investing. Well, we urge you to join in and just come listen to other rock star multifamily agents that are really doing well right now. As far as my background, I am a real estate agent. I'm a broker. I've been in business for over 20 years, representing clients in both residential, mainly residential, some commercial, but both buyers and sellers, and an investor myself. Started in the mortgage industry and flips, did rehab flips probably over 100 homes throughout my career, and then graduated to multifamily and have done a full cycle of multifamily, purchased 34 doors and rehabbed and turned around and improved its net operating income to and just a great producing asset, and sold it when the market was at its peak and reinvested into commercial. And then I have Paul Kraus, my partner here, who is currently doing so much in multifamily. So Paul, please introduce yourself and share with.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Annabelle. Yeah, Paul Kraus. And so originally started in real estate in 2006, predominantly in the single family market, wholesaling and doing fix and flips. And then transitioned to become a licensed realtor, licensed general contractor, and did a short stint in commercial brokerage with Marcus Millichap. Decided I wanted to do something just different, and found an interesting opportunity with Invitation Homes and Blackstone Group. Amazing opportunity, and now doing partnerships with multifamily investing from basically Chicago and points westward to California. Currently in Arizona today, where it's about 82 degrees, and kind of having a last hurrah for the heat. But in any event, I'd like to always do an update. So if you don't mind, Annabelle, I want to just give everyone a heads up. One of the industry websites that I like to share with folks is Multi Housing News. And there was a great article I hope everyone can check out. It was written on November 13th, just a couple days ago. This is called "Where Are the Hottest Neighborhoods for New Apartments Now?" And the source of this was from Rent Cafe, using a lot of the Yardi Matrix information, and top 10, Southeast is still pretty dominant with Miami, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. But then 3, 4, and 5 are Richmond, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Panama City, Florida. 6 and 7 are Columbus, Ohio. So Ohio, remember, there was a huge rush of Californians who went to Cleveland because Cleveland was expanding and growing rapidly, but Columbus wasn't really getting a lot of that. It wasn't getting the same amount of action. Well, now Columbus is actually considered to be, one of the hottest places to be renting. And then after Columbus, 7 and is Dallas, Texas. And after Dallas, we have 8, 9, and 10, which is Miami, Florida, it's not really Miami. It's more like Fort Lauderdale, because Miami is number 1. But Fort Lauderdale is considered in the Miami marketplace. 8. So that's number 8. Number 9 is Knoxville, Tennessee, which is the easternmost, one of the most eastern parts of Tennessee, and then 10, which is Cape Coral, Florida. So Miami, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Panama City, Florida, Cape Coral, Florida,
Mhm.
and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Those five round out in the top 10 of hottest rental markets in change, in terms of the growth change from 2017 to the end of 2022.
Mhm.
And absolutely the apartment market is getting a huge bounce from the amount of growth, population growth that's taken place. So I just want to share that with everybody. There is a pretty long list that they've included in here. I'm in Tucson, Arizona today, where Tucson's had some, pretty decent growth, but we are absolutely now starting to equalize out. Everything is like starting to catch up with itself, and growth rates are not double digit like they used to be. So things are in this marketplace, even though they're steady, they're not in that double digit category like it used to be when we were experiencing some big growth just a year and a half ago. So anyway, I wanted to share that with the folks that might
Awesome.
be thinking about where do I want to invest in, or where do I want to buy property in, or where do I want to be a landlord, whatever the case may be. Great article. And I do love sharing that, but there is 50 more zip codes in that list. So by all means, be happy to throw it in the chat.
Yeah, let's do
And
that.
yeah,
And I mean, I think this is a good segue. Um, someone that's actually looking to invest in multifamily maybe has the experience, not sure what to do right in this market or where to go in this market. I mean, you're obviously out there right now. You're currently in different states. What would you recommend? And I know you just shared a top 10 list. What do you think are the most important things that someone that's going to invest should look at?
yeah, no, I think that here, let me put myself on. I just want to make sure I'm on. There we go. I think that it kind of depends on some of your experience, because there's some people that come into the real estate market after being in business, whether it be for a short period of time or for an entire career. It's not uncommon, for example, people in the legal field, people who were entrepreneurs and owners of businesses, to then come into the real estate business. I think one of the best ways to think about it is you want to really think about what are your resources when you're initially starting out. So in other words, one of the resources is obviously money, but there's more than that, because as you and I have both learned, Annabelle, through our own projects, it takes a team to do
Correct.
any kind of multi-housing project, especially if it's more than 5 units. And something that you also want to think about is your depth of your resources with respect to people. Are you someone that's dialed in already with people that can help with all of your legal, your real estate legal issues that will come up, and be able to close business? Title people,
Mhm.
people who do work, which is your plumbers, your electricians, your contractors, your HVAC folks. Do you have a depth of relationships that you can reach into? So it's good to kind of take an assessment of what are your resources to enter into this industry to begin with. One of my resources that I thought about was that, since I had a previous lifetime as a broker, as a stockbroker, one of my resources was investors, and having a network of people who don't want to do work, but they do want their capital to be working. And when capital works and earns money, investors are happy. So by all means, I had to look at my own resources. And I think everyone on this call should just really just start out with that, which is what does your sense of resources look like? Everybody has at least one resource. It can be something from, hey, my best friend is a painter, to I have a family member or friend that is already investing in real estate. So the number of possibilities in terms of what resources you might bring to the table. Um, it's an endless number. It is only really limited by your imagination, because I'm sure that out of the 200 or 300 people that is in everybody's cell phone, there's got to be at least 2 to 3 people who are already in the real estate industry already.
Mm-hmm.
And those would be resources that anyone who's coming into our business on the multifamily side would definitely want to tap into. That's one of the first things. One of the second things I thought about today, which I wanted to share with you, was kind of like an aha moment in one of our projects that we have going on, because sometimes in multifamily we look a little bit too much at the number of units, like what are the number of units that you're managing. But I really think that that is not necessarily the best information to fall back on when it comes to taking on a project, whether it be buying a duplex or buying an 8-unit apartment. I think what you really want to think more about is the square footage. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the raw square footage of a building that, let's just throw a number out there, 10,000 square foot, you can put 24 studios into a 10,000 square foot building. But you can also put, without too much difficulty, 8 3-bed, 2 baths if you configure the floor plans in a particular way. And one of the things about investing in multifamily apartments is people like to look at, well, what are you earning on a per unit basis? In other words, what is the rent? Is the rent $2,000 a month? Is it $800 a month? What is it? And then it's that number times however many units you have. But I think what's more important in terms of, if you really want to give yourself an accurate scorecard, it's how much money you're making per square foot. Because I don't hear that being shared with a lot of people. And the truth of the matter is if we have a building which is all studios, let's just say it's 24 studios and it's 10,000 square feet, well, that's that is one type of product type that is certainly available in the multifamily housing market. But that kind of housing building may or may not perform well versus something that is geared towards 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom for certain marketplaces. For example, if we have a shortage of college housing and you and I decide to buy a 50-unit apartment building, Annabelle, and it's all studios, well, generally speaking, we're going to be able to put a ton of studios into a building that might be 10,000 square foot. But what if we're not near a university? What if we're near a major employer that maybe is in the tech industry or maybe in the oil industry, and the clientele is not so much about people who want to live alone in a studio or maybe bunk up with one other person, but maybe it might be small families, or what we call entry-level families, where it's like a husband-wife situation, or you have a married couple who have one child on the way or already have one child, and maybe they have a second, but they can certainly get away with a 2-bedroom apartment. So that kind of apartment building, if you and I buy that, is going to have a much different clientele in terms of rent. And in turn, that 2-bedroom is obviously going to rent at a different rental rate, because it's going to have some kind of competitiveness in the marketplace for other 2-bedrooms that are near that employer, right? So, not to make it confusing, but to boil it down to simple terms, I think what people really want to think about is how much square footage can they take on in a project? Because that project in turn will turn into a certain amount of income per square foot. Someone who lives in a 2,000 square foot house obviously has a lot less to clean than someone who might live in a 3,500 square foot house, right? But the rentability of one property versus another property are going to vary greatly by how much demand there is for a 3,500 square foot house versus a 2,000. Well, apartment buildings, Annabelle, are no different. Um, if you and I buy a triplex, that triplex could be, 3,500 square foot, and it's a little over 1,000 square foot per unit. So that's not uncommon. That's actually not a uncommon deal size either for a 3 unit apartment, about 3,500 or building. So I think one of the things that folks should think about is not so much about the number of units they're taking on, but how much square feet they're taking on, because at some point it's really up to us as operators of that building to figure out how to get the most value per square foot out of that building, and in turn offer the most value to those tenants, because the more value that's offered to those tenants, the more that those tenants are willing to not only pay, but also it's going to translate into how likely they will to be renew those leases every single year. So that's a lot of information right away that you were
Actually,
saying, what are some of the things?
that's good because I never really thought of that. I mean, I'm thinking back to my building. I had 24 one bedrooms, and I could have united two of them and probably done, like a 2 or 3 bedroom with an open kitchen,
Yeah.
and would have done very well, like with rent wise, because there are families there that would have moved into one of those bigger units. So that's a really good, what's a really good point. I think that we should not only look at the units. I think look at the potential, like you said, right? If there are studios and you can convert those and maybe combine a couple and do a 3 bedroom or a 2 3 bedroom place that you can rent out, I think is an awesome idea to generate additional income to the property. Because studios are great,
Yeah.
but you're limited with the studio. There's only so much you can increase on the studio. 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom, much, much easier and more demand.
Yeah. And again, it's, two bedrooms predominantly do very, very well in almost any market that I've seen
Agree.
and studied or even been involved in. But again, we want to think about who are the most likely candidates to rent out a place. A friend of ours that came on the call, it was probably about 3 or so months ago, was talking about investing in the Southeast, Alabama. And, there's some places, for example, like Huntsville, that have been growing like crazy. The defense industry has really come in full force, and that's generated a lot of employment. And a lot of that employment is not just about hiring individuals who are maybe fresh out of graduate school or fresh out of college, undergraduate, but also hiring seasoned professionals. And your seasoned professionals are more likely to have families. So if I was in Huntsville, like our friend was, and she's looking around for apartment buildings, I think one of the things that we'd be thinking about, and here's one of the third things we want to be looking for, is what does that unit mix look like?
Right.
And not just the square footage, but what do the units look like? Like, in other words, are we renting to families? Are we renting to large families? Are we renting to entry level families that are maybe just starting to have children, might have one, maybe another on the way? Maybe they have two and they can do a 2 bedroom. I've seen that all day long, especially when they're close in age, when they're, kind of like the adolescent ages. So you might be renting to all families in a particular marketplace, whereas using two bedroom type apartment buildings, and something like that. Now you're starting to think about, well, how much work do I want to bite off? How much can I really chew here? And it might be, hey, maybe the best thing to do is to start with something like a triplex. Maybe not even do multifamily initially if you don't have a lot of experience, don't have a lot of resources, maybe don't have a lot of money, but do have enough resources to handle something in that 3,000 or 3,500 square foot size. Likewise, if you and I were partnering together, well, I know that, by having a partner like yourself who has a lot of experience, has resources, has a lot of expertise, maybe you and I could handle a 50-unit building, and maybe that 50-unit building by square foot, maybe that's a 25,000 square foot building. You and I on our own might have a tough time managing 25,000 square feet, even with a team, but working together, two partners who have a lot of experience might not find it as much of a challenge. And I would bet could probably handle a 25,000 square foot community and be successful returning an above average market return to investors, because we have a piece of knowing what it's like when markets are good and markets are bad, and knowing the times to, kind of pull back on the reins and not be spending money and resources you don't need to spend, and really just keep the building stable, keep the renters in place. So in other words, doing a good job with the renewals. And of course, the third really important element is keeping the expenses in check, so that even if maybe you wanted to offer that amazing Wi-Fi system, or maybe you were going to install that pickleball court in, this one part of the lot that was being underutilized, you and I would be able to fall back on that experience and say, well, in a bad market, it may not make sense to make those expenditures at that time.
Right.
And then, when times are good, knowing full well that when times are good and, cash is a little bit easier, interest rates are a little bit lower, when banks are aggressively lending, that what we can do is at that point, we can really take advantage of making those upgrades, because those upgrades will immediately translate into some kind of equitable return, which means we're really adding value, not only for the community and the tenants.
You froze.
But now we're taking a property.
You're froze on my end. I can't hear. Oh, now I got you. You froze there for a while. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I freeze up. So
you're freezing up a bit. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Oh, we're having some technical.
I can hear you good. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, okay, then you're back. You froze there for a bit. So, I mean, obviously, you're
okay. Yeah,
I think. Me? Yeah. You good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good.
I can.
All right, cool. So, I mean, obviously, I know you're like you're really like in right now in Arizona, right? Is that where your building's at?
Yes.
Okay, you're in Arizona.
Yes.
So, I know you were in Chicago as well, and you're in what other state are you in? You're in Chicago, you're in Arizona,
and California.
And California. Okay. So how do you compare your two properties, not your Arizona and your Chicago, as far as, like just the activity, the movement, the tenants, the quality of tenants? Are they paying on time? Are they falling behind? Like, what do you see in those two markets?
Yeah, I'm seeing, Annabelle, in Arizona, the big difference between there and say the Midwest, like Chicago, is the stability of tenants and those tenants' jobs. So I'm not seeing a lot of fluctuation or differences or changes with tenants' employment status or income status or ability to pay rent or consistency to pay rent on the first of the month or by the third of the month. And I think what I am seeing, in Arizona, that's right.
Oh, okay. Versus
I think what I think what I'm seeing in Chicago is folks who have maybe a little bit less stability with their jobs. Their employment is changing much more. The rents in Chicago are softening, so that's also making tenants very adept at shopping around before they sign on a lease. Um, I would say that, the seasonality, and it's cold in Chicago now. Okay.
Right.
So the seasonality of the seasons is also, when it's colder, the rental market slows way down. And it's not that people don't rent. They do rent throughout the year, but things when they really get cold, they slow down a lot because people want to be in place for the holidays. They want to be in place for the winter. They
Mhm.
want to know that the building is winterized. They want to know that it's a safe neighborhood. Um, so they're very picky, and they will spend a lot of time really researching a place before they sign a lease. Arizona, still kind of a hot market. Still, you know, people find a place and they want to rent it right away. They want to get that application in right away. They want to sign the lease right away. They want to get the move-in monies and deposits in right away.
I mean,
It's
Paul, you are sharing something really, really good. I mean, like you're living
Yeah,
it, you're experiencing this on both properties. So anybody out there listening, I mean, obviously Arizona is a state to look in, right? And if you want to get into
yeah,
multifamily, I mean, it's probably better than going to the Midwest for exactly those points, right? Weather, job stability, and all of that. So, I mean, that's amazing. That's great, and I mean that helps me because I've not been one to invest Midwest. I've just been, well, Dallas is the only place I've really invested out of California. And I know it very well, and I feel comfortable investing there. Like I could go back into Dallas and I feel comfortable, and I'm invested in other parts of Texas, and the properties are doing well. We don't have so many issues, but then I have one in Ohio, right, where it's been rough. I mean, it's not bad, but there's the weather affects a lot of the rehab. If it snows, right, and it rains, everything kind of goes on hold, and so it takes longer. It takes longer to finish stuff. And although it gets cold in
yeah.
Texas, it's different cold, right, than Ohio.
Yeah, but I want to point one thing out though too, is that if someone was saying, but I've heard that the cash flow, you know, the return on investment from a square footage basis is high in the Midwest.
Right.
What I would say is that even though there's all these factors with respect to leasing and rentals, now is actually a great time to buy in the Midwest because if you start doing your work, in other words, your repairs, your improvements, and whatever construction you're going to do after closing now, let's say you can close, before year end, you can get all that work going January, February, and March, and maybe even April. Well, April and May is when the Midwest really starts to take off again.
Mm-hmm.
So buying this time of year is a great time
So
to
you can
be
negotiate. You
in
can
acquisition
negotiate.
mode.
Okay, you can
That's
negotiate.
right. That's right. And because the leasing season is slower in the winter, what I've learned is that it's better to be doing all of your work, doing all of your rehab. You can't say the same for California,
Right.
Annabelle, right? In California, we have active leasing year round. I mean, even though the summer is busy, the winters can be busy. Um, you know, uh, California has such good weather that we can do construction year round. We can do leasing year round. We can do a lot of things that other parts of the country they're not as active with. Leasing in Arizona in the dead of summer. I've heard that for some markets it's more challenging because of the heat, but I've also heard and experienced that if it comes to properties that are near the colleges, whether it's people that are going to be taking jobs at the colleges or they're going to be going to school there, it's not uncommon for someone to sign a lease in the dead of summer, like June or July, to do a move-in by August, because that's when the colleges get up and running. So someone's job might be starting in August, or their college might be, their classes might be starting in August. So it really comes back to, what is the market that you're, going to be owning a property, and looking very, very closely at what are the dynamics that really move that market. Is it the employers? Is it the universities? Is it the hospitals? Is it the it could be anything. And this is why it's really important to understand who are those really large employers. The thing that I learned, about being in Arizona, is one of the big employers are the universities. I mean, they have thousands and thousands. I mean, I think over 40,000 people work at the University of Arizona, for example. So, these are things that you want to factor in, is who are these employers? Where do people have their jobs? Are they well situated with their job? Have they been there for 10 years, 20 years? Are they getting a new job? So these are all factors that are going to affect the leasing, which in turn should have a bearing on when you are going to make, like, what part of year you're going to make your acquisition, your purchase. And based on that, that'll then help you to determine when you can get repairs done, improvements done, so that you can be ready for what hopefully is the hottest part of the leasing season.
I love it. I think that's great. I mean, you've shared so much information that I think we should kind of just dissect a little bit deeper, and for me, and I'm going to ask you this question. I'm looking to invest again in multifamily, and I've been dabbling, just looking right now. I haven't really, and again, the market that I know and that I feel very comfortable is obviously in Dallas. But before I even dive into Dallas, I'm that's what I kind of want to talk to you about is should I look in Arizona, or should I look in Chicago, or should I stay in Dallas? What would you recommend?
I still like both markets, Annabelle. We made more acquisitions in both markets this year. So we still like, we still like multifamily overall. And if I really could find an honest to good deal in Dallas, no differently than Chicago or one of the Arizona markets like Phoenix or Tucson, I would absolutely jump in and be making offers and do my due diligence, because I'm still very pro multifamily right now. I don't see affordability and people being able to buy homes, becoming any easier in America. And I really think the rental markets are going to continue to be, a very viable, very viable source of housing for more years to come, just because of where the economy is, where the interest rates are, where the cost of living is, where the cost of owning a home is. And I should also mention, we haven't even talked about this at all, but even with the the younger generations, absolutely, they are looking right now just to be mobile. But give me a sec, I'm going to be right back. I got someone at my door. Okay.
Go ahead. That is true, as far as the newer generation wanting to live. A lot of them are working from home, and a lot of them are able to do stuff from just different states. So I agree with you there. So just a little housekeeping in the meantime. Again, we host this multifamily call every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring in, time to time, we do bring in guest speakers that are doing extremely well in the multifamily space, and they'll just join our call and share with everyone what they're doing. So I was saying that you're right. The younger generation is they're working from home. They can really live anywhere. They're they don't have to be now in a particular area. They can go anywhere.
In poll after poll
Yeah.
that I read about the age group, the what I would call the young professional group, right? So you're 25 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
I pay very close attention to what the expectations, what the goals, the dreams, the ambitions, and what's really, really interesting to me is that there isn't like this culture anymore of I'm going to work in my new job and work my way up in that company and grow my income to the point where I'm going to own my own home and have a yard and have a dog and two kids and like those motivations, those goals and dreams for this new generation are not the same
Oh yeah,
of what it was.
I agree.
It's changed dramatically. The 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 polls, the age group in this particular 25 to 35 in this time period that you and I are living in here is more about they want to have experiences. They want to know what it's like to do an Airbnb in Zurich or of South America, going to Easter Island and standing next to the statues and the monuments and exploring and having those experiences, super wonderful, valuable, great, amazing. They get to see the world. There's not that sense of determinism to get into a house.
Right. I agree.
And because of that, there is a really strong sense of, because they rent, because they're mobile, they can come and go at any time.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing that we have to pay attention to. I think, especially as operators, because what we want to do is we want to offer benefits to the housing that we do offer. For example, like Wi-Fi, right? Like when you and I were probably first starting out, right? Our access to communications wasn't through wireless, anything. There was no wireless, right? Everything was hardwired.
Right.
And look at it now. It's the exact opposite. There is an expectation that wireless will work in all buildings that essentially they can walk through a handheld device with any mobile device. That's so that there is like basically a seamless transition from home to work to play to recreation back to home, that there's always this sense of being very well connected to the internet and being connected to their friends and their colleagues, and being able to share those experiences, whether it's with photographs, whether it's with videos. And you and I, like I said, when we were first starting out, we didn't have the social media platforms that required us to have such intense communication demands. Well, in this generation, absolutely, the communication demands are a very big. Yeah, I would almost say it's almost like right up there with safety.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I agree.
So we've covered a lot, but I hope this at least gives people who are, looking to go into units, whether it be, even simple units like triplexes and quads, or if they want to get into 8, 10, 12, 20, 30 unit buildings, that we hope that we're giving them ideas, good information. We'd love to hear about their experiences, answer their questions, and by all means, let's have another great call next week, I think, where we can maybe dive into a couple deals and we can talk about some of the challenges and also some of the outcomes from some of these deals that you and I have done, and we can share a little bit more about that so that people can learn from that, grow from that, take from that, to see what we're up to in terms of helping our investors to earn dollars and put their dollars to work.
Exactly. Awesome. Paul, I think you've covered a lot. I mean, it's great, and really this is the reason why we do this call, is just to share to those that are looking to get into multifamily, or maybe they're currently going through it, and maybe have not dialed in 100%, because just because you're in multifamily doesn't mean you have it all under control and you know what you're doing. I mean, sometimes we're learning as we go, and really that's the reality. I mean, nobody goes into this knowing 100%. You learn, and you know what, you just get better deal after deal and property after property, right? I mean, I think I'm being pretty transparent. We're not making this seem as though it's a super easy thing to do and that you're going to get rich like super quick. It's not. Just learn it, do better every time, right? Perfect it, and increase your net operating income, because that's really where it's all at. It's in improving and making the property produce, have a good return, and that your tenants are happy, because those are the ones that will continue to pay for rent and refer more clients to the property. But anyway, thanks, Paul, very much for
Absolutely
sharing. And again, we're here every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and next week we'll probably dive in, like you said, deal, and we'll look at it and maybe point out important, just important things that you need to pay attention to before you actually jump into a deal. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Paul.
See you next week.
Good luck out there.
Thanks, Annabelle. All right, have a good
Bye.
week.